Let's start this video off by taking a look at Manic Miner, a venerable ZX Spectrum classic. Level 1 of Manic Miner shows you every bit of information you'll need in order to go forward and complete the game. It shows you that enemies will kill you in one hit, it shows you that spikes will take your scalp off, it shows you that walkways can crumble beneath you and that conveyor belts will alter your speed. As you play through level 1 of this game, what isn't immediately readable to the eye is learnt through a small amount of trial and error, and the rest of the game then relies on your own skill and perhaps a smidge of luck. Manic Miner is the perfect example of that rare ZX Spectrum game that manages to get pretty much everything right. You may not like the game, that's fine. Coming to Manic Miner off the back of something like Super Mario Bros., there's a rigidity to the platforming that feels relatively alien, but the game is designed around that. Any issues stacked on top of Manic Miner are typically just opinion and preference based on whether or not you enjoy the feel of the game and the level design, as opposed to saying outright, "This is rubbish, I prefer Sonic Adventure." And that's fine, you can have that opinion.
You're comparing yourself to me? Huh.
Sure. All of that being said, it is very rare that you come across a game that actively plays against itself. A game in which the visuals on screen are diametrically opposed to the buttons on the keyboard, the fingers that are pushing those keys, and the eyeballs you own that are currently being used to try and parse that visual data into something that makes sense. A game that actively works against you in terms of providing any sort of satisfaction, because you spend the entirety of that time playing wondering what on earth the programmers were thinking when they made it. And then you go and find that this game, a game which deserves nothing but a giant magnet attached to its face, ended up getting a sequel. There are two of them. Both of them are just as horrible as each other. Fee, fi, fo, fuck.
Life is unfair.
So, I came across Giant's Revenge during the Weird Spectrum adverts video. Check out that.
Wow.
Giant's Revenge. Well, Jack and the Beanstalk was notoriously one of the worst Spectrum games ever made.
Yeah.
I've not tried it. This is the sequel to that.
Giant's Revenge. Let's try
Giant's Revenge.
claw back our dignity.
What is going on with his misshapen head?
With his tit head.
That is, without doubt, one of the most hideous pieces of artwork to adorn a game, which is a good natural deterrent, unlike Codemasters games where they make the thing look like a hidden gem, only to discover it's very much an unhidden turd. It's a turd sat out next to a fruit bowl. When the Weird Spectrum's advert video went out, I seem to remember a few people saying that Giant's Revenge was awful, but I'd largely put it out of my mind until scouring through a list of games I wanted to review. There it was. Unbeknownst to me at the time, it's actually a sequel to a game that is largely similar, Jack and the Beanstalk. But for the benefits of chronology, I'm going to take you through the sequel first because that's how I played them, and equally, it doesn't matter. They are both irredeemably awful. Reviewing them in order is like saying you need to eat all of your poisoned dinner before you get to eat a slice of poison cake. Otherwise, you'll spoil your appetite. It doesn't matter which way round you do it, your appetite will be out the window after the first bite. Also, you'll be dead. On loading, Giant's Revenge flicks between all its screens to show you just what you're in for, and while the colours are fairly garish, obviously, it's a ZX Spectrum, there's a good bit of detail here that may lure you into a false sense of security. The foolish idea that this may actually turn out alright. First point of call, obviously this is based on Jack and the Beanstalk, so let's head up that goddamn beanstalk, shall we? Okay, let's not do that. Let's head down into the depths and... Okay, let's just try that again. Okay, well I guess let's try and jump across this pit. Jesus H. Giant. This is going to be a problem, isn't it? This isn't even the worst of the levels when it comes to understanding just what the hell is going on in a world where merely walking is a crime punishable by death. In fact, it's probably one of the easiest levels to understand. Heading into Screen 2, you'll see what looks to be a couple of branching paths, but actually, no. There's only one route to take. One route through this stinky maze cavern, or you're bludgeoned to death by malevolent bullshit. Let's take another look at Manic Miner's first level and the pathway we need to take. The only thing that's not immediately clear about this first level is that you need to make your way back to the exit on completion. This is fine, as it's a learning point that is covered on that very first level. You learn that lesson once and you understand it'll be the case for every level going forward. Let's take another look then at level 2 of Giant's Revenge. There are 2 false paths here that you have no real way of knowing until you've died 150 times just because you had the audacity to gently caress a rock. There's no universal learning process here though. What works on one level doesn't necessarily work on another level, and here comes level 3 to ruin your day, which, get this, is even worse. Which of these pathways, for instance, do you think is the correct route? Let's find out, shall we? Absolute bollocks. But you know what's worse than level 3? Level fucking 4. Now this has got to be one of the worst, right? I don't even need to put a path on the screen for this one. And to do so would require me to re-watch the footage 15 times until I got it all laid out. This makes so little sense in terms of what is and what is not a hazard that I have literally no clue whatsoever as to what the designers were aiming for. What was the purpose of this? Who would find this fun? If there was a god, why would he allow the creation of such a thing? The thing that really gets me here though is at this stage in the game, you'd likely still be hanging on to the idea that you're playing some sort of platformer. That's why I keep bringing up Manic Miner. I mean, level 1 makes it pretty clear that there is some platforming afoot, but no, this game is listed as a maze game. But it's not even a maze game, is it? A maze typically has its walls delineated by a fucking hedge, not by sheets of glass that kill you instantly whenever you so much as brush your arse cheek against them.
Are you okay?
Ouch!
Level 5 is up next, and guess what? It's awful. It's truly awful. Like a hot bag of boiling shit. Firstly, there are 2 doors. How you're supposed to know which one is the exit is anyone's guess, but let's presume it's the giant door up here. This does beg the question, why is there a tiny door if a giant lives here? But let's assume he has a human-sized maid who lives in this one, because we've already come to know that the world of Giant's Revenge holds no logic. And of course a giant would hire a tiny maid to clean up his massive cumsock pile, steadily building in the corner of his sweaty bedroom. There are some obvious problems here on level 5. There's a set of stairs, for instance, but no clear route to the bottom of said stairs because there's a wall right there. As we've seen multiple times through this game so far, touching anything that the game doesn't want you to touch results in instant death, for reasons we'll never understand. That includes the edge of the fucking screen. So I figure, okay, I guess I need to jump up to those stairs, and I'm playing with save states now because nothing on earth would have me play this shit without them. So I point myself up, I press jump, and... What? Okay. Yeah, alright. Well, I've no idea how you get up the stairs, so what about this goblet up here that I obviously need to collect? Can I climb that? I can obviously climb that, right? It looks like a ladder, so to hell with you all, I'm gonna climb that. No. Can I jump up there? No, because jumping up just makes him jump sideways through the scenery like he's broken into the Matrix and reprogrammed hell itself. So what on earth is the solution here? Well, firstly, this wall right here apparently isn't a wall this time. You can just walk on it. That's super helpful. Thanks for clearing that up, game. You definitely didn't teach me that walls are bad for 4 entire levels. You definitely didn't just make this a chore in the slightest. That still leaves the goblet. At this point, I'm guessing I have to jump from the top of the stairs to reach it, and let me tell you, it's super fun trying to do that while constantly dying. Maybe if I just fly my way through the scenery, it'll work. No, of course it fucking wouldn't. So what on earth am I supposed to do? And why am I still playing this? Honestly, I sometimes wonder if I've made a terrible choice with my life. I'm absolutely fucking sick to death of playing this absolute garbage bullshit bollocks. Oh, I did need to climb up there, only I wasn't stood in exactly the correct position. This is the incorrect position. And this is the correct position.
Let's take another look.
Absolutely ripping the piss. This game makes me want to bring back the death penalty, specifically so I can convict myself. With that room finally done, and by the way, it was the giant door you needed to go through. Fuck this door in particular. We're at another stage in which the pathway through is intentionally awful. At this point, I think the developers are taking the word revenge far too literally, and I've done something to upset their entire family in a past life. Presumably. This is where the process of learning a game should start to come to fruition, but there has been absolutely zero learning in this game, no functional understanding of how this world works or the methodology of pathfinding. Surging your way through the safe zones on these squares is bad enough, especially when you consider that if I wasn't cheating here and save scumming every 3 seconds, you'd have to do all of this from memory with only a handful of lives. But then you get to this point and you may be wondering if the game is just broken, because where the hell are you supposed to go? Well, somehow in a game full of shark ramps, here's where it jumps the shark pit entirely. You do the stupid sideways jump across the bed, but half of the stuff you're standing on isn't flat. This is literally the vertical side of a bedpost. Why are you able to stand on this? It makes absolutely no logical sense whatsoever. Why even draw the game in this pseudo 3D fashion if you're not going to adhere to the logic of a 3D landscape? This is like if Salvador Dali decided to make a platformer and then made you play it while you binge on mushrooms. The final level then, as you may have guessed, it's just as wonky and confusing. There's a giant here who just watches you the entire time, looking more like a vampire than anything else. The pathway through this one is equally just as ass and entirely confusing as every other level in the game. And when you do finally reach the end, a text screen. No music, although having endured the game's music for the past 30 minutes, I'm quite alright with that. The fact that they planned out more games in this series that mercifully never saw the light of day is obnoxiously wrong-headed, but then again, reading the reviews from the time, I'm starting to wonder just what on earth they were putting in the water during the 80s. The Crash Magazine review gave this game 64%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but to put on my hilarious hindsight goggles for a moment, and compare that against the Metacritic scores of games across the ages, that's the same score as Zoo Tycoon 2. Zoo Tycoon 2 is the most 64% game you're ever going to come across. Giant's Revenge is absolute pish. Even more amusing, the review itself barely mentions anything about the game. It consists of 3 paragraphs, with the first paragraph being the biggest, and it uses that entire time to complain about the copy protection being printed so poorly that accessing the game itself is a nightmare, and it only gives you one chance to get it right before it boots you out and makes you load it all back up again. They basically locked this thing up in Alcatraz, and when players finally did manage to break their way in, all they found was a dying badger and half a packet of already chewed soft mints. It was at this point I started to hypothesize on how this game came to exist. This is a sequel. This isn't a once-in-a-lifetime mistake. It's also not made by complete charlatans who had no idea what they were doing either. Chris and Stephen Kerry were the men behind this, famous for having their hands in games like Bounder, the Monty Mole games, other shit, you know, competent stuff. Stuff that would have you believe they understood what a platform game should be, if it's even a fucking platform game, fucking maze game bollocks. Calling yourself a maze game should, at the very least, provide some sort of maze shape for that game to sit in. And so, for a brief moment, I thought, well, Jack and the Beanstalk must have been good then. There's no way they'd make a game that was awful and then come back to make a sequel just as awful. So I checked the reviews. Crash Magazine, 68%, Personal Computer Games, 7 out of 10, ZX Computing, 5 out of fucking 5? Are you for real? Well, it's time to set my expectations accordingly then. It's exactly the fucking same. Technically, that's not entirely true. There are a couple of differences. Firstly, you can shoot a fart out of your face, which will kill enemies who instantly spawn back into existence, making it one of the most pointless shooting mechanics I've ever come across. And to give the game some credit, the graphics are slightly more restrained, to the point where I can sort of see what they were going for. until I reach level 2, and I have to make my way across these bricks, and I realise, no, actually, there are no good things to say about any of this. It is the same shit as I've just had to deal with. Platforming that doesn't match up to the graphics, pathways that make absolutely zero sense, exits that aren't altogether clear. I mean, why do I have to exit left from this screen? How would I know this without constantly dying in the process of trying? Because the edge of the screen kills me. Once again, by level 3, the path I'm supposed to take is entirely guesswork based on nothing but reviewing where the enemies are and assuming it wants me to cross paths with them. And then with that one out of the way, we're already on the final screen in which the giant and his unseemly camel toe are fast asleep. But once I finally work out how to navigate his lap, he wakes up and sends me back to screen 1. At first I thought the game was expecting me to redo the entire thing again, but I soon realised that no, the giant waking up is part of the game, and what you actually need to do is race to the bottom of the beanstalk, grab the axe, and chop down the giant plant before the other giant comes hurtling out of the sky towards you. If he does that, it's just game over there and then, and you have to be quick here because it really doesn't give you much time at all. Thankfully, you can utilise your crappy little jump to race across the screen, although, once again, if you touch the edge, you die, so be wary of that. On chopping down the beanstalk, you're treated to... Well, it's an actual ending, I guess, unlike Giant's Revenge, so I guess we give it bonus points for that, and thank Christ that's over with. Quite literally the worst game, and an even worse sequel. How on earth this franchise made it to 2 games, I will never understand. Are you actually fucking kidding me? There's another one. Well, it's just going to be more of the same old shit, isn't it? So I guess we raw dog this one and go in live. Here we are, jumping straight into the 3rd goddamn game in this trilogy. The house that Jack built. More like the house that... Fuck off. I hope you're all happy about this, because I'm not. I'm not happy about this at all. Alright, what do we reckon? Is it worse or is it better? I mean, they've given up at the title screen already. Oh, what a surprise. It's just the same. It's just the same. Oh, it's a different character. I suppose that's a positive, isn't it? Where's my up and down? Right. Do I have... I don't think I have a jump at all. I'm just... Right, where do I need to get to the door? Let's assume I have to get to the door. How do I get past this thing? Do I just run? Okay, right, we're outside. Where am I? Jesus. Right. Oh my god. The walls don't... The flowers aren't hurting me. Right, what? Have they fixed the fundamental flaw with their game? It just took 2 games to get there, right? Let me get inside. No, okay, do I go left? No, the edge of the screen doesn't hurt. Is this a functioning game? I mean, it's piss easy, but at this point, I'll take it. You know, I was just complaining about the game... I don't know what that was about. The game being a maze game, but not being a maze game. This one actually has a maze in it. That is... amazing. God, I don't know how I come up with this shit. Piss flaps. Oh yeah, the sofa doesn't kill me. Oh my goodness. The relief that I feel right now is palpable. Okay, I mean, you still get stuck on scenery quite easily, but this is such a cut above what I've just had to play through. This is basically... Okay, this is just a skill issue. Don't put that down to the game. It works. It actually, I was just expecting the same thing all over again. So this is unreal. And I kind of feel bad for them. If this is the best one of the three, that nobody would have got to the third one. Nobody was sat there after playing the first two going, you know what, I need another one. I need another one of them. They must have known it was pretty ass, because the third one is totally different. What? What am I looking at? How on earth do I get over there? Oh, what? Okay, I mean, oh shit. You know, I probably would have enjoyed this. Okay, that was a death as soon as I walked into a screen, which I'm not too happy about. But yeah, I think that would be the kind of game as a child that I would just enjoy exploring about, not really knowing what to do. The difficulty seemed a bit ski-whiff, but then I think that was largely because I didn't really know what was happening. Some screens were very easy, but it's very difficult to actually see what you're doing. Anyway, regardless, I wonder what the reviews were for that, because that was so much better than the other two. So that got 73% from Crash Magazine. So at least Crash Magazine understood that having a completely different game at that point was definitely for the benefit of games players everywhere. So yeah, that's it. That is the trilogy of shite. With the third one, I mean, at this point, it could still be one of the worst games I've ever played, but still marginally better than the other two, and I'm fine with that. I'm just glad this is all done, and I don't have to think about it anymore. Join me next time for another game.
Children of the sun, see your time has just begun. Searching for your ways through adventures every day and night. With the condor in flight, with all your friends in tow.
I need to work on my endings.